The year is 2025. A new year just rolled over, but scientists have found something unexplainable. A meteor has just hit Siberia, which has just unfortunately caused the world's electricity to power off. This is not ideal, and in this video we'll be exploring what we think would happen in this scenario. Probably one of the biggest effects of this is the hundreds of millions of people that would lose their jobs due to this shortage. Noted that the internet would come to a collapse pretty much, as I don't think the servers were meant to run without electricity. So hundreds of million people are jobless. Not a great thing. That will cause huge economic downturns, and we're just getting started. Now, the world's biggest concern about the electricity loss globally is that the food would start to go bad. This would cause the world's largest famine. Hundreds of millions of people, they're just dropping dead here. And it's not slowing down. In just 1 year, the scientists predict that around 10% of the world's population will starve, and the rest are just barely scraping by, keep that in mind. But about after a month of this shortage, the scientists would collect together and they predict that there's not going to be any electricity for around 600 years, which is a pretty bad sign for all of humanity, as we've just been sent back to another dark age, which is why this video is called the Second Dark Age. I know it's disappointing that we can't survive without this electricity for much, but it just shows how big of an impact electricity has. Right now, the governments of every country would just go crazy right now. They're trying to blame Russia for this, and Russia's trying to blame the rest of the world for what has happened with the meteor. But eventually, the populations of around 50% of the countries on Earth would be tired of their government and would have them forcefully step down. This will cause whole new governments to pop up, which will be set up in an interesting way. The people would decide who's the best person per country to be the leader based off of a few things. How they can help the sustainability of agriculture and all of that, and yeah, just whoever fits the job best in the Second Dark Age. This will last for 600 years, keep in mind, so they need to set up some very good ground rules. And each country would set up a very fair but strict constitution, which will make sure that the leaders are stuck in their place and they go forward with whatever duties they need to do. But given that only 50% of the world population has overthrown their government, what does the other 50% have going on? Well, major civil wars, that's what. As the people are still trying to overthrow their government, but the government has decided to unleash the military on them. And unfortunately for anybody from the Middle East, they would unfortunately have a huge impact from these civil wars and what will be called the horrible Dark Age of the Middle East, where almost all of the population, all of the male populations are depleting rapidly in almost every Middle East. Yeah, this is a serious situation, and I don't feel like I'm the most qualified on this topic, but this is just what I'm putting together for you guys. I don't really want to keep you guys here all day, so I'll just speed up this scenario. The agriculture will start to grow in some countries, but in other countries, especially in the Middle East, the long civil wars will eventually end with the pre-Dark Age governments collapsing. And finally, every country in the new world will have a good government to tame the Dark Age. And let's be honest here, the rich that were rich in the old times, they're most likely getting hunted down, as they would have collected many resources around when they were rich. But now, money doesn't really mean that overall. It's mainly just a bartering system where you trade for wheat for stones or something. The rich are now getting hunted down, and Elon Musk, which was and is a very controversial man, would be assassinated and unfortunately eaten due to the food shortages, and people from right, left, and center will start pillaging whatever he had in hopes that everybody will get some more resource. And now we'll speed this scenario up a little bit more, because I feel like this would just be a boring grind of agriculture growing up. And to say lightly, the farmers are the saviors of the scenario. Every single farmer will become the new rich, as food is the #1 resource on the whole planet. Some farmers will form up a farmer league to try to keep everything under control for each and every farmer. And this will go very successful with the farmers. Eventually, when they need to retire from farming, they may be set up to be the new leaders of the Dark Age government. Now, I'd like to imagine that the farmers were working together, but unfortunately, since we're humans, I don't think that would be the case. And a new farming empire would form, with farmers from the east coast of Canada and from the east coast of the United States that would form together to create the Farmer Union State. And from there, they'd start pillaging land, telling people to pillage the lands, and then they will get some pretty good compensation, which would go successful as they'd rapidly expand around the east coast, eventually starting to go to war with Florida. The war with Florida would go absolutely insane, and a surprising leader in Florida would take charge. That is the one and only ex-Hunger Games member, Charles White. He would take charge of the government, and he'd start planning the epic Florida Man rebuttal, where they would kick out all the farmers, help the Florida men save the day, start farming all over the place. This will go pretty good as the Farmer Union would be stopped in their tracks, and Charles White is declared the new leader of the government and a war hero. Anyways, this is going to be it for this scenario, because I could go on forever, but I don't really want to go on too much about it, and you pretty much know where it's going. The farmers would start ruling up until they can get their electricity back, and then things would start going back to normal, but with a bit more farmer culture. Make sure to hit that like button, geez, and comment down below, because this was actually a viewer suggested idea. I may do a part 2 if y'all want it, and goodbye.